Hello and welcome to the Nashville Daily podcast. I'm Stuart Deming.
And I'm Aaron Pennington, and joining us today is Travis McQueen from
Nashville.
one of the previous podcasts that we've had on here, and also has his own podcast now, Bourbon and Bokeh. Travis, we'll be talking with you later, but go ahead and introduce the podcast before we get started, and then we'll join you later in the program to talk about it more in depth.
Well, Bourbon and Bokeh, man, it's pretty cut and dry. It's a photography podcast, videography podcast, basically a creative podcast where photographers, we just come together, drink some bourbon, and just kind of vent and talk about life, man. It's a good time.
Awesome. Well, we are looking forward to talking about that more extensively later on in the program. So audio's for a few minutes. We will hit you back up here in a little bit. All right. We have later on the program, Jeff Pennington of Pennington Distilling. That's my own last name, and I can't say it. Pennington Distilling Co.
That's a tongue twister, man. It's that the co, not like company. It's the co that gets you.
Yeah, Pennington Distilling Co. and Speak Easy Spirits. And we're going to be talking about a few interesting things with Jeff Pennington later on in the podcast. And one of those things is something that the FDA did that was very interesting yesterday, right at the end of 2020, just when you think anything could not get worse. The FDA decided that it could be absolutely worse. But what we want to do right now is yesterday, we reached out to you guys on Instagram to say, what did you want to have as your New Year's resolution for 2020? We had some interesting responses. First of all,
2020, or was it 2021?
For 2021.
Okay.
Gosh, I need to get my head out of 2020.
Man, we've only been in 2021 for like 6 hours. 9 hours.
Yeah. It hasn't been that long. But welcome to everybody who is watching and who is listening to Nashville Daily's first podcast of 2021. We wanted to make it special. So our first video podcast of the podcast's history. And so bringing in the new year, right. Let us know what you think if you want video podcasts, what you think about this format. We are very excited to have this, but we got some interesting answers for what you want your New Year's resolution to be in 2021. One of the answers we got off of Instagram was somebody said they don't want to skip college classes anymore for non-educational purposes, which I think is a really good resolution.
That is a good resolution, and I wonder how many college classes they skipped in 2020, because that's a big possibility that you skipped a lot of college.
I'll tell you what. Whenever I was in college, one of the things that really kind of made or broke if I would skip is if the class was fun, I would go. But if they did not take attendance there and I knew I could find the information online, hands down, I would not go.
So we had my college was a little bit different than most colleges. It was a very private school. And so we had 6 skips per semester, per class.
Really?
And then if you skipped 7 times, like if you didn't have like a good reason not to skip, you would actually get docked an entire grade point.
Really?
So every additional skip over 6, you'll get docked a grade point. And so I figured out a way around this system. And I actually, what I did is I worked full time as well, and so I was able to skip a lot of classes because I had an excuse because I was actually working. And
that's
so
great.
It was really interesting. But I also I had the opportunity to graduate in 2.5 years, and I did a lot of classes. I did like 24 credits in one semester, and that was a lot. But I also skipped a lot of classes. We also had chapel in college.
Okay, yeah. So obviously I didn't have that. I want to say this real quick. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us here on the stream. And And Christopher, thank you so much for going even further and revealing he skipped like 10 classes so far. But Ryan, how many classes did you skip in college? I'm curious to know, because I feel like it's on the lower side, but I don't know. Maybe you had a little bit of a skipping streak in you. But somebody else commented on Instagram and said they wanted to be more defiant for 2021. I think that's fair after 2020. I think a little defiancy should be built into 2021.
What type of defiancy are we talking about? Defiancy against the lockdowns, against the government, against there's plenty of things. Fast food.
I know.
I want to be defiant by eating more Chick-fil-A.
There you go. I love it. And Ryan said he skipped probably over 30 classes, which is...
Ryan, I did that too.
I think we're all in that same boat. And then somebody else commented and said they want to get back on the Nashville Daily podcast. Travis, was this you, Travis?
Yes, it probably me. Probably me.
No, I can't confirm it was not Travis. It was somebody else. But we fulfilled that with Travis, even though that wasn't on his New Year's resolution for 2021. And then we also asked another question.
I want to know who it is, because we've had a lot of guests on in the last year and a half, and I have no idea because my Instagram is not telling me any of the answers to the questions we have.
I'll keep you guessing. I'll reveal that at the end.
Oh, man. Okay.
We also asked what you want to learn about Nashville, and somebody said they want to learn about the ghost stories of Nashville, which is honestly, this kind of fits in the history category for us. So it's one of our favorite things to talk about. We did a full podcast episode about this. It's on episode 66 of the Nashville Daily podcast. So
66.
We did it real early in our history.
That was like 300 and some episodes ago.
It was, because we started on August 1st
of 2019.
2019. So it fit right at that October 31st area for 2019. So that's episode 66. So that was really fun. Okay. What are we doing to bring in the new year? Well, we are drinking locally. We didn't do enough of it last night, so we're gonna make up for that this morning.
I actually went to bed at like 9:30 last night.
So here's the interesting thing. So you know how News Channel 5 was hosting the Music City Midnight
Did you watch
event? I tried to. It was not on their app at all. I guess they forgot to put it on their app. It was, however, on their Facebook. So I streamed their Facebook, obviously, to the television. Yeah, I don't know if as many people got to see it as somebody wanted to, but I did get to end up seeing it in the last 20 minutes or so with Moon Taxi.
And they didn't do the fireworks?
No fireworks. Like as soon as midnight hit, cut. Stream was done. So they wanted to be done with 2020 just as much as everybody else did. But we are drinking in the new year with something local. Actually, a few things local. Obviously, we have our Nashville Daily mugs, limited edition mugs, which are incredible mugs to drink out of. We are drinking local coffee. 8th and Roast is what we are drinking now out of this. I got a few bags of coffee for Christmas. 8th and Roast, a nice medium roast out of there is what I'm drinking now. And 8th and Roast is full of caffeine, like really full of caffeine. So this is the good stuff. And also drinking some stuff from Pennington Distilling Co. I'm a big fan of theirs. There's no relation at all, but I'm a big fan of theirs.
See that.
And then we have some Pennington Distilling. This is some of their Blood Orange Pickers vodka. And we're going to be joined later in the program by Jeff Pennington from Pennington Distilling. And he is going to talk about some of the stuff that was going on with the FDA and also what is new for them.
That is some good morning vodka. Man, I want that and some orange juice.
That's a good wake up right there.
Ooh, I got some hair on my chest.
There's some orange juice for you in the morning. That's what you drink
with the Bloody Mary.
Yeah, that's what you drink.
Man. Ooh, that would wake you up. All right, so let's talk about some news. There's actually some great news for 2021, and that's changes in laws.
Yeah, Tennessee brought in 2021 with new laws. They said new year, new laws. And
that happens every year. But the Tennessean does an article on New Year's Eve, I think the last 7 years, if I remember correctly, of new laws starting in the next year. On New Year's Day. And there's a few laws that went into effect, and I had no idea this one was actually happening. And this was the raising the tobacco purchase age to 21.
Yeah, I didn't know this was a thing. So it's kind of one of those things that the federal government usually does whenever they want states to really adopt what they're doing. They say, hey, you go ahead and adopt this, or else you're not getting a bunch of grants. And so that's exactly what happened. So last year, the federal government raised the purchase of tobacco from 18 to 21.
I had no idea the federal government did that.
Tennessee did not do it. And pretty much the federal government said, if you want the grants, you have to do this too.
Huh.
And so Tennessee, it is now law in Tennessee to purchase tobacco. The age has to be 21 instead of 18. I really didn't think I'd see that this soon, especially in Tennessee. But maybe it'll get baseball players to stop dipping. So at least that may be may be a good thing, because usually that starts around in high school. You see that all the time.
Well, the thing I find interesting about that is now all these people that work at gas stations and grocery stores are going to have to redo math in their head and figure out what's the difference between 3 years of 21 and 18. So all these
this
people
makes more math in Tennessee. It's not good. It's not good at all.
Our Common Core math is a joke.
Oh God. Yeah, maybe that should be in 2021 is no more Common Core.
No more Common Core. But this is including e-cigarettes, vaping cartridges, hemp, all that other stuff as well.
Okay, Stuart, what else is in the books for 2021?
So it looks like the state of Tennessee is actually going to be regulating car sharing industry, which I find interesting because if you've listened to this podcast any time in the past, I've talked about my experience with Lyft and Uber. I did nearly 181,000 miles in the city, had 15,000 passengers. And when I started driving for Lyft and Uber, there was absolutely no regulations at all in the state of Tennessee, and like none whatsoever, to the point where my insurance provider actually dropped me from my insurance. They found out somehow that I was making money through a car service.
You were an early adopter. That probably scared them.
Well, probably. I was one of the first Lyft drivers in the city of Nashville. I had this big pink mustache on my purple Kia Forte. And the first time I drove with it was, I think, Valentine's Day weekend, the big mustache, because it took like 6 weeks to get in.
Yeah.
And it snowed that weekend. And it was disgusting. The mustache turned into a brown mustache very fast. And so it's just, I find it fascinating that 7 years later, after this concept started, they're really starting to put regulations on the car sharing services.
Well, so there's a service called Turo, Turo, that started maybe a year and a half ago or something
in Nashville, but it's been nationwide.
It's been nationwide
for like 7 years.
It wasn't really available in Nashville because we couldn't do like the Airbnb for cars kind of thing, but now that can happen. So those are some of the most significant things, at least from a consumer standpoint, that are happening for 2021.
So that means I can start renting out my car that's just sitting in my driveway doing nothing.
You absolutely can. You've done that. You've done that for me. So you can do it now legally on a sharing platform. All right. So also, we want you to text us. We have a texting platform that is just in a fun way for us to connect with everybody that love to explore Nashville. You'll see that scrolling across your screen. The number is 615-392-1358. And that's where you can text us. We will actually text you our adventures of what we're doing in Nashville. We'll ask you questions about Nashville, what you think about certain topics, and it's a way for us to explore Nashville even further. 615-392-1358. You'll see that kind of ticking across your screen there. 615-392-1358. But one thing I do want to show you guys is we have a Patreon subscription. It allows you to get access to some of our content early. It also gets you this limited edition Nashville Daily coffee mug. You can see a little bit of that right there. It's an incredible coffee mug. We had a great photo shoot earlier this year with these coffee mugs. The one that will live in infamy with the picnic blankets and wine and cheese. And
yeah, that was a lot of fun. But we're going to be getting new coffee mugs soon because we're running out of our limited edition mugs.
Limited editions are truly limited editions. So NashvilleDailyPodcast.com to learn how to get those. And also we release content early on there, our Nashville story episodes, which this one I'm very, very excited about because it mixes history, it mixes Middle Tennessee, and this also happens during the winter time. So this photo right here is a very, very interesting part of our Nashville story episode tomorrow. This is the eve before the battle at Stones River. And there was this is true Tennessee music style, a true battle of the bands that happened between the Confederate and the Union Army.
So this happened the eve of the battle, and the battle actually started on December 31st and went until January 2nd. And it is so fascinating what happened with this battle. The battle line was 3 miles long at one point. And the thing about the Battle of Stones River is it took up almost the entire northeast or northwestern portion of Murfreesboro. And what's really, really fascinating is the terrain is very different within that 3 miles. And so you have a lot of limestone terrain, you have open fields, you have a river gorge. And so you have a lot of these different terrains for this battle. And I learned quite a bit with this interview.
So we talked with Jim Lewis, who's the lead interpreter for that National Parks battlefield. It's an incredible site, and he takes us through. He's a great storyteller. Takes us through the entire battle, which the battle actually took place in, I believe it was 1862. From December 30th was the eve of the battle, and it took place all the way from then until January 2nd. And you can actually listen to all of that episode right now by heading over to NashvilleDailyPodcast.com, becoming a Patreon member, and you'll have access to that and the limited edition coffee mug. So that is all there for you. NashvilleDailyPodcast.com. It was indeed a very, very fun podcast, and we learned a lot. All right. So this is an interesting topic because we talked about this on the podcast here before, and this is the Christmas Day bombing in Nashville. We spent the majority of this week talking about the Christmas Day bombing. But one of the things that we did not get to do, which we get to do here on a video podcast, is actually show you some of the footage that has really been impactful over the few days of I guess it's been a week now in the aftermath of all of this. So
we have a lot of the footage and photos over on our Instagram account at XPLR.NASH. We have a ton of content over there. But what's really interesting is we haven't been able to show what happened on Christmas Day here on the podcast. We've talked about it. We've played some audio clips, but to get the full perspective, you need to see what happened.
Yes. So the first video that we're going to show you is a CCTV camera of Officer James Wells. So essentially what happens, and he'll kind of explain it with a small little press conference that he had with the media, but he was very close to being in the middle of Second Avenue and
Commerce.
And Commerce is when he walked away, and he'll talk about a little bit of what that was. But let me show you how close that Officer James Wells was to the actual blast, and then you'll hear his words describing what happened in that moment. So obviously there's not a whole lot of audio that is with this. Obviously, it's what you get with security camera footage. But one of the interesting things about this is how he was walking in one direction and turned away in another direction. And the even better part is he got to recount the story. He lived to tell the tale of what that was like. Here's the press conference that Officer James Wells did with News Channel 5 about a day after this incident occurred.
And at that point, I get out, and I'm starting to go back toward Llewellyn and Hosey. And as I'm getting ready to walk toward them, walking back toward the RV, and this might not be politically correct, but this is my truth. And I literally hear God tell me to turn around and go check on Topping, who was by herself down on Broadway. And as I turn around, for me, it felt like I only took 3 steps. And then the music stopped, and as I'm walking back toward Topping now, I just see orange, and then I hear a loud boom. And as I'm stumbling, because it rocked me that hard, I started stumbling. I just tell myself to stay on your feet, stay alive. And I just take out in the full-out sprint, and I'm running toward Topping to make sure she's okay.
So that was, what he said, which is just almost gives you goosebumps to hear him say something like that, that it was kind of a God thing to turn around and go check on somebody else. And then he would have, if he had that not happened, he would have been in the actual blast site. And it's kind of hard to see because of a very bright light, but you could see where he would have been. There were several things that were knocked over, cracked in half, and very, very much bent where he was standing, and he was going further.
And that's not including all the glass that broke from all the windows. There's reports that glass was breaking on Broadway. There was debris that flew into the Sobro building, which is on 2nd and Demumbrian, and one of the top apartments in that building actually had broken windows, and so debris was flying everywhere. Windows were shattered, and he did lose hearing temporarily because of this explosion. I don't know if he's regained hearing, but it's really fascinating because at the end of the interview, he talks about the 3 people that were injured, and he said paramedics take them to the hospital first. And, it's crazy to see that he literally turned around seconds before that huge explosion.
That is interesting, and I wasn't planning on doing this before, but Travis, I'm going to bring you in here for a second to talk about this because Travis, you are now a Nashvilleian, and you are actually pretty close to the incident. So what was your experience like during that time frame from the explosion to whenever you found out?
Yeah, so we wasn't in Nashville like at the time of the explosion. We was just coming back in. But man, it's like we heard the reports. People was messaging us saying, "Oh my goodness, there's an explosion in Nashville." So we was like, man, like that's weird. And, we get into Nashville, they've got most of the interstates completely blocked off. We had to go through some back roads to get home, but our apartment is way, way down on the other than Broadway. And it just rocked that whole building. All of the earthquake sensors were going off. The fire alarm was going off. Everything was going off. They was evacuating the area. It was just a crazy moment just to drive home and just everything be kind of up in the air,
It is very interesting, and I want to say one thing that you and your military service, and thank you for your service. It was very fun to see your old photos that you posted very recently. To see young Travis,
beardless,
beardless Travis. I don't think I've known you of not having a beard.
No, nope. The day I got out, man, it came in.
That's funny. But being, somebody who has probably seen stuff like this, what was your reaction to seeing an explosion not too far away from where you live?
I mean, it's weird. It's like you never think that that's going to happen, especially like in home, like right here. You see it happening possibly in New York or other big things. It's just weird, man. It's like, why Nashville? And it's like, there's really nothing here. There's not too much controversy. So it's like, it just doesn't make sense. And that's always the big thing. It's like, if it makes sense or not.
It's probably because we've gained worldwide fame in the last 5 years.
I was about to say,
we're more talked about now than possibly New York City and LA.
Also,
Yeah.
we did a conspiracy theories episode
Yesterday.
on our podcast. Yeah, that was that yesterday or 2 days
that was
ago?
yesterday. I just want to
That
talk
was
about my favorite
yesterday.
conspiracy theory from this. The biggest conspiracy theory that I found that is hilarious is this guy hunted lizard people and he believed in aliens, and he went to local Tennessee state parks and he hunted for aliens and lizard people. And on yesterday's episode, we read this comment of this glorious Facebook comment talking about how the AT&T is alien. Was it
there was apparently a NASA storefront
on Second Avenue,
on
which
Second
does not
Avenue that we
exist.
missed.
But she said that AT&T is alien something territory. Like it's really funny what she said.
You want to know what this is? This is a product of Common Core education right here.
Oh yeah, we made that joke earlier. So
all the Common Core information is stored on the AT&T servers, and that's how Common Core.
So that's why it takes 10 minutes to solve one basic math problem.
Yeah, because it has to come to Nashville in the servers
and then go somewhere
else. And then go somewhere else. Yes.
But another conspiracy theory that we have is actually one of the first videos that was posted after the explosion, probably within hours of the explosion. And this is from a YouTube channel, S_M lowercase c capital G. And they posted this video of the evacuation noise. Please evacuate now. You have a few minutes to evacuate. So we have that clip, correct, Aaron?
Yeah, so we have a little bit of that. So I'll play the video and then we'll talk about, you may think, what is controversial about a CCTV video coming out? I'll play the clip for you and then we'll talk about that. I mean, this is it's absolutely wild to see this. And so here's the interesting thing about this video. It became available on YouTube from that account that Stuart talked earlier. What was it, like 30 minutes after the explosion?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it came out like 30 minutes or so after the explosion. It was probably an hour or two after News Channel 5 played that clip. And one thing I remember vividly is before they played that clip, they actually had the audio file that they played over another video of some of the helicopter footage that they had from News Channel 5 Sky Chopper. And so they played that audio, and it was, please evacuate now. If you hear this, please evacuate now. And they played that audio clip. And I remember looking at my wife and I was like, wow, that is insane. This feels like a movie. But you could even hear on the dash cam footage that we have on our Instagram, the officer says this feels like a movie.
Yeah. So the kind of, I don't even know if it's conspiracy theory because all of this is just true at this point. The YouTube channel that hosted this video and put it out there made the account in 2014, posted nothing, absolutely nothing, and then that was the first video that it posted on YouTube. And the Twitter account with the same handle as that YouTube channel also was made very recently. And also, I believe, I can't remember if the Twitter posted I think it's Twitter posted the video as well.
Yeah, so the
very
Twitter
soon
the Twitter was
afterwards.
made supposedly a few weeks ago. There's a huge article that we talked about on yesterday's conspiracy theory episode about a guy who did all of this research into this YouTube account and Twitter account. He has this thread, like 100 threads long on Twitter, and we have him in the show notes from yesterday. But that was posted on Twitter and on YouTube.
And the other interesting thing is that there is a YouTube account that with almost similar initials, just the spacing is a little bit different. And there are some very bizarre videos on there. One is specifically, I believe, of President Trump with overdubbed audio, like praising Russia or Putin or something like that. And it's just all very weird. And really the controversy is, one, where did that CCTV video come from so quickly? How did they have access to it? And, that's something that is still up in the air that people don't know about is, how did that footage get to that YouTube channel so quickly? And why was the Twitter account with the same name made only weeks before the Christmas bombing in Nashville? And nothing was posted to that YouTube channel for 7 years now.
Yeah, things are still really strange. This only happened a week ago, and the conspiracy theories are deep and wide. They're as wide as the Grand Canyon, and there is a lot more conspiracy theories than the two that we just talked about.
Yes.
But the thing is I don't think we're going to have a lot of answers to a lot of questions very soon, or if ever. And one thing that is not being talked about a lot is the gunshots beforehand. Like, what caused that? Was it coming from the RV? Was actually somebody shooting at each other? And we literally have no idea.
Was it the recording that was earlier, but just a very loud gunshot blast? It's all very interesting. Travis,
I think it makes sense if it did come. Like, I think it makes sense if it was a recording, because think about it. As people, we are. If something starts going on, it's like, hey, somebody says don't look, we look, right? So if a recording just starts saying, hey, don't come near me, I'm going to explode, people are like, oh, hey, I want to go near there and see if it explodes or not. So I think the gunshots, in my opinion, it wouldn't make sense to play that over the intercom. It's attention grabbing. People are like, oh no, like I need to run from that, So it makes sense to me that it would come from the recording, but again, I don't know. I wasn't there, thank goodness. So.
Well, some of the first reports when they were talking about the gunshots, especially News Channel 5, they're like they were wondering if the gunshots were for intentionally to get the police downtown, and then start evacuating people, and so all of these people would be on the street at one time,
and they would be able to hear the
recording, and then maybe leave, or there's the potential of getting all these people on the street and it blew up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors, and I think there's a lot of questions that a lot of people have. We're never going to get answers to.
No, but one thing that we do know is, Travis, that you have started a new podcast, and that you are doing this new journey, talking about photography, and also talking about that. So I'm excited that we get to talk about that here in just a little bit. So Travis, we will see you in just a little bit to talk about that. We're going to be joined here soon by Jeff Pennington, and we are going to talk about some very interesting things that have come in the news lately. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is talking with Jeff about those, and he's going to be joining us here in a second. Before we talk to Jeff, I want to play a little bit of a video that we did a few years ago with Pennington Distilling.
Right around Christmas, about 2 years ago.
Right around Christmas.
Yeah.
We usually talk with Jeff around Christmas time each year, so this is just
the last
kind of tradition, kind of a New Year's thing. So we'll just do this every year. But this was a few years ago. You'll see some nice Whisper Creek in this shot. You'll see some very nice visuals.
Pennington distilling vodka right now.
Yes. So let's play this video, and then we'll be joined by Jeff, and we're going to be talking about some very interesting things. So I'll play a little bit of that video from our YouTube channel.
It's time to shine. Give them what you got, baby. Time to show them all you are. It's time to shine. Gotta give them what you got. Gotta show them all you are.
All right. So we are joined by Jeff Pennington.
Hey, Jeff.
And
Morning.
I love watching that. Literally, we have a playlist on our YouTube channel called Featured Videos, and that's always the first one. So I get to see that clip pretty often. It's one of my favorite things. But Jeff, good morning, and how are you doing this January 1st of 2021?
Hey, it's a long.
There you go. All right. So, Jeff, one of the things that I think is very interesting is at the end of 2020, just when, after a Christmas bombing, you say, how could 2020 get even worse? And then I'm sure it passed across your desk as you're saying, okay, I can relax. It's the end of the new year. And then the FDA comes and says, hey, we want a little bit of more control over distilleries and whiskey by giving you this nice little new fee that we want to impose for distilleries, trying to do a really good thing for 2020, which is obviously for distilleries who are making hand sanitizer. You now enter some kind of weird new classification that allows you to pay more money. So what was that like seeing that yesterday?
I first saw it about 2 days ago. It was the 29th or 30th. It wasn't the first I saw it yesterday. It was a day or two ago. And I'll be honest, I was reading the email, and it's one of, we get all the emails from Discus and ACSA and ADI, all the different lobbying firms. And I'm just like, that I didn't read that right. Like, that's not right. So I read it again. It's like, $14,000 fee for something we did last year.
Right.
Not depending on how much we did or whether we sold it or whether we gave it away or any of that, just a flat $14,000 fee.
Did you guys make hand sanitizer?
Yeah, we did. We were definitely one of them. And we gave away, I think we gave away a little over 12,000 gallons to the Nashville Office of Emergency Management, the police department, the fire department. We did giveaways every Friday for local community just to do a drive-through. I never seen that much demand. I'll be honest. I mean, I'd use hand sanitizer plenty. When I travel, I get on planes. That's the time I use it. But
yeah,
I didn't realize the demand was there until that first Friday when we just posted a post on Facebook at 9:50 saying, hey, at 10 o'clock, we're going to do a drive-through, pull up, come in and we'll give you some free hand sanitizer. By 10:05, we had a line backed up to the interstate.
Wow. Oh my God.
I was like, this is crazy.
When you were doing that, did you ever think, oh man, I can't do this. The FDA is going to come after me for this?
It was I'll be honest, the FDA was very difficult to navigate from the beginning. I mean, they basically sent out this notice in March, sometime like mid to late March.
Probably like March 15th.
And it was March 15th that said, hey, distilleries were waiving this, that you can do this, but you have to follow this one, the World Health Organization formula. But then every day they had this living, breathing document that was on their website that we went by. And I'd read it and I was like, okay. And I'd go and set up everything I thought. And I'd go back the next day and I'd open it up and I had it saved as on my desktop. And I open it back up and the next day I'm reading it. I'm like, wait a second, that says something different. I'm like, and so I called my lawyer. I was like, man, I'm pretty sure this document changed. I was like, am I crazy or did this I didn't read this. He's like, well, Jeff, you are crazy, but yes, the document did change. I was like, all right. So literally the FDA was changing a living, breathing. They were sending out this document, but then they were changing it, not telling you they were changing it.
Wow.
So they were changing the rules and the goalposts the whole time. So a lot of the distillers, after they realized there's probably like 800 plus of us doing this, I think they realized they've got to set some kind of clear rules. So finally got that done around mid-April. And I applaud them because they've done, for them to turn something around in less than a month with that is still impressive. But, so when I saw it I think it was the morning of the 30th, I just didn't believe it. I was like, oh, this can't be true.
Right.
And so then they were telling us, all the groups are like, hey, just delist yourself off the FDA site, unregister everything by the 31st. Well, I still got a bunch of inventory we had made. I was like, well, what am I going to,
Right.
I was like, I've still got probably $20,000-$30,000 worth of inventory.
Wow.
That, you know, because the demand's way down, but I don't want to just throw it away. You
Yeah,
know?
Right.
of course.
And they're like, well, you can't sell it if you deregister. I was like, so what? Like, what do I do here?
Can you give it away if you deregister?
Yeah. So basically, I had till yesterday to go on the FDA site and re-register.
Wow.
I got to give a big shout out to the industry groups, Discus and American Craft Spirits Association. Those two mainly. And a lot of people online. That article was shared so many times.
Yeah.
On Facebook and Twitter. I'm sure all the other ones I'm not on, but yesterday the Department of HHS at the last minute, I think around 3 p.m. came out and said, no, we're waiving it. We're reversing that. Like,
I'm sure
wow.
the negative PR they got for that, I'm sure, was through the roof. And you know, part of it I read was because of the CARES Act that was back in March. They had to find some new fees in order to kind of keep the funding going. And so I think that might have been part of it, but you know, there's probably a million things that are happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. So it's good to hear that they waive it. What was your ultimate choice? Were you saying, okay, I'm going to continue with the hand sanitizers, or what did you end up deciding?
Yeah, I'll be honest. We set up a separate company called Fresh Sanitizer, and so we have some other partners, and we actually want to make this an actual ongoing business. It's not going to be as big as it was in 2020, but we've got our own touchless dispensers. What we've learned is the liquid-based sanitizer that the distilleries are making, it's actually a better product than what people are used to with gel-based.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Huh. You know,
And it smells good too. If it's coming from you guys, I know it probably smells good.
Yeah, it smells a lot better than it did. You got better at that. But at first you were just using whatever you could to get stuff out there. But yeah, it's, you know, what they use in gel, everybody thinks it's aloe. Aloe doesn't actually make gel. They use polypropylene glycol as a thickening agent, and that's really an irritant in itself.
Isn't that in bubblegum too?
I think it might be. It's in a lot of stuff. I've never, to be honest, I'd never really worked with it until I was studying this. I was trying to figure out how to make a gel, because everybody, you know, if so many people are used to that, because it's what holds it from making a mess. If you squeeze it in your hands, it doesn't go everywhere. But then what they do is they put aloe in it to try to offset that. So if you use Purell or Germex or any of the gels and you use it 3 or 4 times a day, your hands will dry out.
Yeah.
If you use ours, which is just alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, and glycerin, you could use it 20 times a day and your hands feel great.
Oh, that's nice.
It's actually more effective. So we've actually built up some inventory of it. We had some custom dispensers that mist. So they're touchless ones that you put your hands under and they mist.
That's cool.
Awesome. About 600 of those. And we were going to actually go out to restaurants this year whenever they did reopen. You know, they're reopen now, but, you know, more normal. And actually, you know, hired a little, just a local guy to just go around and kind of sign people up and try to make a business out of it. So we just decided, you know what, we'll eat it. We'll eat that fee, I guess. You know, we were going to take a shot that, hey, the fee's not due for 45 days. Maybe the press will keep wearing on them. But we were lucky enough, you know, we're a little bit bigger than the average craft distiller. I can't imagine.
Right.
I think on the ACSA, they said 800 distillers did this.
Yep.
Wow.
I can't imagine that half of them may not be able to afford that.
Yeah.
There's no telling what that would do to a lot of these guys. So I just couldn't believe it. There's no way they're going to do this. And we're looking with 14,000, not like 2,000 or 1,000.
Or
some random number.
Yeah,
like 10,000 gallons or something.
That definitely adds up. They needed to fill a budget line, and they took that budget line, divided it by 800, and then that's what you ended up paying.
I think they're like, hey, this group that we just saw, the craft spirits industry, I think they saw the American ACSA, which is our arm of the Discus, is saying that craft spirits lost $700 million in revenue in 2019.
Wow.
That sounds like the good ones to go after.
Wow. Yeah.
Tax Amazon. I mean, I think they did all right this year.
Yeah. Jeff, it's been about a year since we've had you on this podcast. And I'm just wondering how's business been for you guys? Are you guys still doing the tours? So how's Pennington Distilling over in West Nashville?
You know, the first half of the year was pretty, dismal. Unfortunately for us, on March 3rd, when the tornado was it third or second? When the tornado came through,
The third.
That our distributor took a direct hit. So it was actually where it touched down over on off Centennial.
John C. Toon and all that.
Yeah, they're across the street from John C. Toon. So their building was the first direct hit, them and the material handling resources. And so we didn't ship any product for 3 weeks. And March is our second biggest month of the year, especially for pickers, just because it's springtime's coming, the stores are loading back up. People are usually getting back out. January and February is always slow. Love it.
The little orange
juice for January, everybody's dry January, going to the gym, their memberships. I've always done February because it's the shortest month of the year. But March is kind of like everybody's like starting to get back out. So the stores load back up, the bars are getting ready. So we really took a big hit right there. And then obviously right when about 2 days after the warehouse got back open, the 14-day shutdown went into place. So we pretty much lost all of March and half of April, and lost about 15 to 20% of our annual sales right there in that period. So we ended up closing out through June about 22% down. But I will tell you the second half of the year was pretty strong. Retail really came in. People kept drinking at home a lot. I think consumption was up quite a bit. I saw a really funny meme that was going around that I can't wait for the bars to open up so I can stop drinking so much.
Because it's cheaper to drink at home than at the bar.
But the sad part, so business ended up being okay. We're going to be a little off this year, but we got through it. And we're actually going to be in a good spot for 21. But we lost the bars and the restaurants and the venues, and that's where people learn about brands. That's where they try brands for the first time. It's very rare that someone goes to the store and they're like, you know what, I got $40. I'm going to buy something I've never tried. If you go to a bar, a bartender tells you about it. So especially with our whiskeys, we won some of the biggest awards this year on our whiskeys. And we didn't get to promote it. What'd you say?
Oh, congratulations on that. I saw your new press release. And I was like, oh, wow. I had no idea you guys won all of those awards this year.
Yeah, it came out in March and we couldn't really go out and be like, look at us. So
talk about those, some of the things that you guys have done in that world that have won those awards, because I'm seeing all these small batch things on your Instagram and they look so good. So what are some of those things that have come out of the storeroom?
So, our Tennessee whiskey came out in 2019, but it's our flagship. We make three main whiskeys, three mash bills, I guess that is. We make a Tennessee whiskey, a rye, and a bourbon, and our bourbon is wheated. So we released our Tennessee whiskey first because we didn't want to release all three at the same time. Just kind of wanted to let them kind of go out in little waves, but also wheat can always use a little more time. You can't really over oak wheat as much as you can dry. So we released Tennessee whiskey around mid last year. That's the one that really won the big awards in the beginning of the year. We got San Francisco, got double gold, and we also got best in class, which means we beat out everybody in our division. I love San Francisco and Tastings because they're blind. There's no label bias to them. And then beverage tasting gave us 94 points, and they're listed as number 3 North American whiskey of the year. So that was both with our Tennessee whiskeys. That's really exciting. And then our rye got a couple golds. Our Genesis, which is our birthday bourbon we do each year, which is based on our Tennessee whiskey recipe, but not charcoal mellowed.
Gotcha.
Got a couple golds. And then our bourbon we rolled out this fall, which is our wheated bourbon. We haven't entered it into anything. It'll be going out over the next couple months. Most of the awards are kind of early in the year, so really excited about that. It's tasting delicious, and we've done a lot of single barrels. So if you see Davison Reserve out there, we haven't gotten to market it with the bars, because I think 48% of our business, 48% of our revenue in 2019 came from bars and restaurants, and this year was right around 8%.
Wow,
that's crazy.
That's
so. Hopefully everybody goes back to the bars and restaurants. If not, order your takeout from them. You know,
Yeah. Get
gotta
a to
take
go
care of
drink.
them. Our city's built on them, and they're struggling. We need to give them everything we can.
Yeah. Last year when we had you on the podcast, you were about to release a new coffee product. Is that going to come back on the market soon? What's happening with that?
Yeah, we stalled that. That's going to come out this spring. So we're really excited. It's our spiked coffee, spiked latte, and a spiked mocha made with Whisper Creek. It's in a can, ready to drink. It's real coffee, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Oh, it's going to be so good. Jeff, what are you looking forward to in 2021? What's kind of your big thing? Obviously, there's a lot to look forward to. What's the big thing that you've got your eyes on for this year?
Well, there's a big bowl of black eyed peas first. Start that off. I'm excited to get the whiskey out. We really didn't launch the whiskey past Nashville. We distribute in about 17, 18 states with our other brands. So I'm really excited to take the whiskey out. I'm looking forward to concerts again. Music.
God, yes.
I don't think I went to March 9th was my birthday. That's the last concert I went to.
Wow. Who did you go and see?
It was just a beach concert down to Floribama.
Okay.
Good buddy friend of mine, Adam Goliak, who he actually got a record deal in 2020, right? And was going on tour and finally getting his break. So check him out. He's got his second radio hit coming out. He's a great guy, writes his own music, but went down there and saw that. So looking forward to concerts and venues and events.
Oh my gosh, yes. Concerts are going to be the biggest thing. Even watching Moon Taxi last night.
Didn't they kill it?
They did such a good job. I saw them at the Ryman, and so I missed being able to experience that again because, it's not the same, obviously, on TV. So I'm excited for that. Jeff, we wish you all the best in the new year and looking forward to more of that new whiskey and trying that. But until then, we'll do some Blood Orange and start the new year right. But Jeff, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast, and we wish you all the best for the new year.
Happy New Year. Cheers.
See you, Jeff. Man, so much fun.
Oh man,
it's literally it's every the last 3 years. It's always been around Christmas. We've done something with Jeff, and we had the opportunity last year to try the coffee product that they're coming out with Whisper Creek. It is delicious. I can't wait to experience that fully in a can.
Yeah, the Blood Orange is so good. It'll wake you up for sure.
I think I grew a few more beard hairs.
But speaking of, we can make the easy transition, I think, from whiskey to bourbon. Travis, I know you're probably itching to try some of that Pennington Distilling product right about now.
I definitely am. I want to talk to him about some bourbon for sure.
Yeah,
always down for that.
It's so good. So I'm obviously from Kentucky. I know you've been to Kentucky as well. Yep. Woodford, I think, is one of my favorite products that has come out of Kentucky as far as bourbon. But I think really the only thing that has ever given it its run for the money is Pennington Distilling.
Really?
And their whiskey line.
Aaron's been saying that for the last 3 years.
It's so good.
Yeah, that's impressive because Woodford's probably my favorite. The double oaked. Oh man, it's smooth. It's good. So I'm excited, man. I really want to get out there and try some of that bourbon, man.
Yeah, it is good. That will have to be one of the first things that you try here soon. So Travis,
it's been about a year since we've had you on the podcast.
Oh, that's weird. We've had Jeff on
a year ago,
so and Travis a year ago.
We've had Travis. We've had you on 3 episodes. This is our 4th episode we've had you on.
Oh, this is the third one. This is the third one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember because we did one interview that was 2 separate episodes because it was such a long interview. So this is the third one. I think we had you last November on the podcast, and we talked about your trip to, was it Kyrgyzstan?
Kyrgyzstan. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
But in 2020, you haven't been able to really travel, but you are now starting a new podcast.
Yes, man. Yes. So yeah, obviously 2020 rocked everybody. the photography industry, the creative industry, I think got rocked probably one of the hardest just because we couldn't do anything. A lot of the travel photographers and videographers, like Hollywood, shut down, so a lot of bad things happened. So, me and a few girlfriends, we sat around, we was talking about, what could we do? And we come up with a podcast, and, we're just really excited for it. It's called Bourbon and Bokeh. It's just really a podcast for people can kind of go hang out, listen to some real stories, listen to the realness of what it's like to be a photographer. It's a social club. It's good.
So you just you came out with your first episode last week, or was it this week?
It was last week. We was going to plan it to run it on it today. So, January 1st, but we was like, you know what, let's just go ahead and we got excited. So we went ahead and pressed the publish button. But we are recording. We are going full steam ahead, man. We probably got half the year already planned out with content and with things. So it's really exciting.
So are you going to be releasing an episode weekly, bi-weekly? What's the schedule for that?
Yep. Yeah, we're going to do a few our goal is weekly, but we're going to do a few little special edition episodes in here and there for either the 4th of July, special days, Christmases, stuff like that. We're going to do some special episodes.
So for anybody who's wondering if they're interested in either photography or the creative side of things, is this something that they're going to want to listen to? Because
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So what are you guys going to be long-term kind of talking about within the creative world?
Literally everything. We're going to talk about, the entrepreneurship side of things, the creative side of things, goal setting, planning, what's good for beginners, what's good for, experts in the market. We're going to have interviews with some of my friends, hopefully that are Sony Alpha pros or Sony Alpha artisans. We're going to do a little bit of everything. And the reason why it's because every podcast, especially in the creative realm, it's super dense on like tech jargon and gear and comparison reviews. And we all know that as creatives, like you don't have to have the greatest to be good. You just got to be good.
Yeah.
So we're going to go over some of that kind of stuff. We're also going over some entrepreneurship because, again, another side of photography or business, when it comes to this stuff is business and entrepreneurship. So we're going to talk about that. And it's not going to be super dense on either which one. We're going to come at it with this is what we do. It might not be right. In 6 months, we'll probably tell you, hey, we did it wrong, but it's what it is. So
Travis, you've been officially in Nashville for a quick little bit here. How has your newly found Nashville experience been so far?
Interesting. Lived in Clarksville for since I think 2016 or 2017, one of those. Pretty quiet. Nashville within a month. We have bombs going off and all kinds of craziness. So it's been interesting, man, for sure. But I will say, welcome to Nashville. I will say it's actually not bad though. I remember complaining about, coming to Nashville from Clarksville, visiting on the weekends, like traffic's terrible, right? Everybody's, Nashville traffic's bad. I've not had a lick of trouble since being in Nashville with traffic though.
That's because you live downtown. You come from my region of Nashville every day. You're going to run into severe traffic,
and that's not even on I-24. Did you experience that at all coming down from Clarksville to Nashville?
Yeah.
On 24.
Look, 24 is the black hole of traffic jams and just terribleness. I can't stand 24. If there was ever a thing I could wipe off the face of the earth, it is the whole 24. Because you can go through Georgia, but as soon as you hit 24 in Chattanooga, traffic jam. It's terrible. As soon as you go from Kentucky, as soon as you hit in 24, like right there in the Clarksville, traffic jam. It's always like that. And around exit 24 to 31, there's always an accident. It seems like out that way too. 24 is terrible. Okay, and rant over.
It's one of the worst interstate systems in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, 100%.
So, Jeff, now that you've been in Nashville for a little bit, do you have anything on a Nashville bucket list? Things you really want to do? It doesn't have to be this year, but 2021 may be the year to do it. What's on your Nashville bucket list? Things to do here?
Well, Pennington Distillery, I think it just bumped its way up to #1 with the bourbon.
Yes.
I really kind of want to get around more into the city, kind of get more acquainted with like city and street photography and stuff like that. But Tennessee as a whole, man, I think there's a lot of like stuff to do around here in Nashville with some trails, with some parks and stuff like that. But just go to some waterfalls too, with Tennessee in general. So,
you can just join us, Travis, because we go to waterfalls all the time.
Yeah. Explore Nashville. That's the thing. You know, we're going to explore Nashville and Tennessee.
There you go. That's the goal. All right, Travis, where can people find you on social media? Where can people find your podcast as well?
All right. So find me on social media at the Travis McQueen. I think it works. I think that works for Facebook, Instagram, I think Twitter too. But the biggest thing though, follow us, follow the podcast. You guys are going to love it. It's great. It is literally just at Bourbon and Bokeh.
I love it.
Awesome.
I love it. Travis, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to more episodes coming out of there. So thank 100%.
You. 100%. Thank you, guys.
Travis. We did have a comment. What is one of our favorite Hendersonville restaurants? And Aaron, I don't know if you know Hendersonville restaurants very well. One of my favorites is, I think it's called Center Point Barbecue. It's right there on Center Point Lane or Drive. I think it's right off of that little bypass. Delicious barbecue. We've eaten there a couple times, and I think if I remember correctly, their pulled pork is fantastic.
So also, you had mentioned this on, I believe, yesterday's podcast, that there is a hot chicken place that's in East Nashville and Hendersonville called Slow Burn.
It's in Madison and Hendersonville. Yeah.
Okay. So that could be a really good Hendersonville restaurant. Also, Blas Hernandez, who has been on this podcast before, used to live out that way, and he would always take me to I don't even remember the name of it, but this it was a great kind of sushi and Chinese restaurant that we would go like work out and then go to this Chinese sushi restaurant, and it was incredible. It really hit the spot. So I don't know where that is, but it's probably like the only one in that area that people really know about. So people in Hendersonville might be able to help us out and know where that is.
One of my favorite stories in the last year from Hendersonville is there was a Chinese restaurant that was washing their pots and pans in the river or the lake.
Oh yeah,
and they got a little bit of a fine from the health department. But just a fantastic story. There is this little coffee shop kind of near. There's a television
is
station
it that little
there.
hut?
Yeah, there's that little hut. So it's like this. It's a gravel parking lot. And I had avocado toast there last year, and I had some delicious, I think it was like a blueberry coffee. And I cannot remember the name of that place at all in Hendersonville, but that was fantastic as well. Man,
always good.
This video podcast has been a lot of fun. I hope that you guys have been enjoying this as much as we have. We will be doing more video podcasts in the future. We're not releasing that schedule yet, but it is coming. So, Aaron, what's one of your resolutions for 2021?
Oh gosh. Well, this hasn't felt like New Year's to me as much as it hasn't in years past. So I really haven't made any resolutions. The only resolution that I hoped for was that 2020 ended. And so I'm fine with almost whatever comes my way in 2021. So that's what I'm happy about. Drinking more local coffee. That's always going to be the goal for me. What about you, Stuart?
Eat more chicken.
You followed the Chick-fil-A cow's motto.
Yeah, eat more chicken. No, I love Nashville hot chicken, so it's one of my favorite things to do. My biggest goal this year is there's 56 state parks in the state of Tennessee.
There are.
I've been to nearly 30 of them, so I want to knock out a few new Tennessee state parks this year.
I wonder if you know how you can buy like a scratch off map of every state you go to, and you kind of scratch it off like you would a lotto ticket when you go to each state. The Tennessee state parks, if they don't have one with that,
we will be making one.
That should be a thing, and that's what we should aim for, to scratch off all of those Tennessee state parks, because we're well on our way, but 56 is a lot, so we'll have to do some work to get there.
3.5 hour drives is the bigger factor.
I know. You kind of almost have to stay on the east side of the state in order to to do that, and the west side, but nobody wants to stay on that side as much as you do the east side. So it makes it a little bit difficult. But for everybody who is here with us live, thank you so much for joining with us. Those who have been listening to the podcast since the beginning, we've been at this for a year and a half now, which has been absolutely incredible. We already have one person who say they buy that scratch off map. We would too. 100%.
If the Tennessee State Parks doesn't have it, it's coming.
Yeah,
we're making it.
We're making it. We're not going to make anything that we wouldn't buy. Like this hat. This is a hat that we also make, and so you can.
This hat is blank, but it's going to have something on it.
It's ready to
soon.
print. It's ready to print for something. XPLR.life. If you want to check out some Explore Nash merchandise, XPLR.life. But we appreciate everybody who's watching, who has been listening to this podcast. We're excited to be interacting with you guys more. If you want to explore more with us, text us at 615-392-1358. You can see that number kind of scrolling across the bottom here, 615-392-1358.
Also, if you want to keep up with us daily on our Instagram account, XPLR.NASH, we're releasing photos every day, videos every day, Instagram reels, stories every day. And we're going to be updating a little bit more about the bombing here soon. But make sure to go follow us on Instagram. And if you haven't checked out one of our YouTube videos, we have some great videos about the city of Nashville, top restaurants, top parks, top waterfalls, top coffee shops over at XPLR.NASH.
Especially if you want to learn more about Pennington Distilling and Jeff's story. We have that on our YouTube channel, XPLR.NASH. Also in the archives of Nashville Daily is Jeff's podcast, Travis's podcast. So go check that out, Nashville Daily. That is the podcast that you'll search for. If this is your first time watching or listening, go check out some of those past episodes. You can go to YouTube. We have an entire archives of our Nashville story episodes, which are fantastic. And we're excited for 2021. It's going to bring some incredible interviews, incredible stories. We look forward to diving into learning about Nashville, learning about the history of Nashville. Speaking of which, our episode that is coming out tomorrow on the Nashville Daily is a great Nashville story with Jem Lewis, who is the lead interpreter. He's been with the National Park Service for like 20 years and knows his stuff. He tells the great story of the Battle of Stones River, and you want to check that out. NashvilleDailyPodcast.com to learn more. We also have one more question, and then we'll be out of here. The best breakfast diners around Nashville.
Man, there's a few. The ones that stand out to me the most is Maple Street Biscuit Company. And I know that's a chain restaurant, but that stands out to me a lot. The Nashville Biscuit House over in East Nashville.
That's a really good one.
I honestly don't know how they've survived this pandemic. I really don't.
They are there.
I hope they're still there. Rise in downtown Nashville is fantastic, and a place I have not experienced yet, but I've seen like 10 photos in the last week, and I really want to go. Is Ruby Sunshine over in Hillsborough Village.
It's Ruby Sunshine is okay. You're not going to get like an authentic diner type breakfast there because they're a little bit too big.
But it's like a New Orleans style place, right?
It's a New Orleans style place. Yes, it still kind of has the feel of a little bit of you're walking into a chain restaurant kind of feel.
Okay.
But Nashville Biscuit House, the Hermitage Cafe, is a very unique experience. So definitely check that out if you like unique experiences. And then Stuart, I think you nailed it with Nashville Biscuit House.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best. Oh, we're forgetting the best one. The hands down the best one. Loveless Cafe.
Yes.
That's found in West Nashville. If you're looking for the best breakfast, we actually have an entire video on our YouTube channel at XPLR.NASH. I think it's called Top Breakfast in Nashville. He's been to Biscuit Love, Pancake Place, La Peep, and a Loveless Cafe. I don't even know if I know what La Peep is.
La Peep is. We'll have to try it. I love breakfast, so we'll have to try it. Also, in East Nashville, so you know the Hearts Cafe, the Australian, the Sydney diner, or the Sydney coffee place that just came in?
I haven't been there yet, but you've said it's been great.
I drove by there the other day. I swear there are 30 cars in that 10-car parking lot.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It's super busy. So if you want to check out some breakfast, some good coffee, I think they have crema coffee. That's a good place to check out. La Peep is the Belle Meade is in the Bellmead Galleria. Okay, so we'll have to check that out for sure. Thank you so much for everybody kind of tuning in, and we look forward to doing this more often. We'll keep you posted on our next live podcast. But thank you so much for joining us on YouTube, on Facebook. We've loved reading all the comments and interacting with everybody. So thank you so much for a great time with this podcast. The Nashville Story episode comes out tomorrow. We'll see you then.